The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
Oh, welcome on in, everybody. We're just laughing at the football noises that, those generic sound machines that give you, like, this is what a football player sounds like. I don't know. You and I have been to a lot of practices and games, yeah. Mitch, you more than I have, especially recently. I don't know. Have you ever heard any guys making that noise? Maybe on a compound fracture situation.
Haven't heard that sound. I've heard more.
Yeah, down at BYU, you're going to get some yells, man, like that. Welcome on in. It's another edition of First and 12. It's our rivalry week edition of First and 12 right here. Thanks for being with us on the program. I say rivalry week. Across the rest of the conference, you actually do have a couple other games that are in that rivalry vein. But I will say that obviously here locally for us here in the state of Utah, looking at this one and what it means for the folks here, what it means on the national scale, which is obviously the one that matters the most to people who are listening right now that are not in this state, or if they are, it means so much more when these teams are winning. And that's what you got this week with Utah and BYU both getting important wins. Utah dominating Arizona State, BYU beating up on Arizona only in overtime, over in the last 2 minutes of overtime. So that's what we got is an undefeated BYU team and a number 23 Utah facing off this week, and that's top of mind, of course. But we're kicking things off right at the top here with the game that was the game of the week here for us. Let's jump right in here.
The big time, Big 12, game of the week on First and 12.
BYU taking down Arizona 33-27.
BYU. Wait, what was the score?
33-27. And I'll admit, Alex, I was in Tucson, and when they got down 24-14 in the fourth quarter, I said, that is a wrap. BYU better pick themselves up off the mat and try to get ready for the rivalry game and not let one loss turn into two. But BYU found a way, despite its slow tempo in the fourth quarter. They still come out with a victory in double overtime. And Bear Bachmeier, it's unconventional, man, but 12 of 29, 172 yards passing. But on the ground, he carries it 22 times, and BYU finds a way to get it done.
Yeah, and I thought it was not, and you weren't the only one, too. My boys texted me and said, I'm out. And I said, that's fine.
I thought it was a wrap,
I'm just watching the Utah game now. And I was like, look, it is what it is, man. And I think, how many times have we seen BYU in the last couple of seasons? Last 2 years. And this is a skill, I tell you this all the time, this is a skill that this team has learned. Is not just being down, but being close. Like, those are two things. Those are feelings that you have to learn how to manage. Not just because you can also learn how to lose in those situations. It's just a thing that you can actually just get bad at. And in BYU's case, for some reason, they've just gotten good at surviving, at winning these games. The only time they took the lead in this game was in the second, past the first quarter, was in that second overtime. Starting out quick, 2 games in a row for BYU. Like, that was a shock, right? People, I think, looked and they go, man, everybody's sick of these slow starts to the offense. Big-time plays, huge plays down the field, 14-0 like that. Parker Kingston with another massive chunk play to put a feather in his cap as well, and he's having a freaking year now. And then you're looking across the field, and Noah Fafita is a different cat this year, is a different dude. Like, that guy is as cool and as calm. Maybe you saw something different, but that guy was as steady as it came. He was as dialed in as it came. He was focused, and what was wild to me was it seemed like they were more prepared to go into that moment, and BYU, a little bit ragged around the edges, found some way to win the game. And you have to tip your cap to the freshman who got his 4th Freshman of the Week honors this year, 3rd week in a row. I was a little bit like, well, I don't know with those 2 interceptions, because the one thing that I will criticize about Bear Bachmeier, are we allowed to do that yet at this point in the season? Can we do that? The other turnovers from last week from 2 weeks ago against West Virginia did not hurt his team. Those 2 interceptions hurt his team down in Tucson, and they had to come back from those moments. And those are the things I think you can learn a lesson throwing a pick and go, man, I saw something different. Shoot. And then you go, it's okay, kid. We won by 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns. That's fine. those 2 interceptions hurt his team. For them to come back from that is wild. And it shows kind of what Kalani's team is made of a little bit. And it makes this week against Utah a little bit more juiced. You have a top 15 team, and I was like, AP voters, freaking do your job and put Utah in the top 25 so we can get a national matchup between Utah and BYU this week for rivalry week. And here we are down in Provo. Big noon kickoff's going to be there. Big deal. Awesome. And the Utah game, you're turning it away from that thing. They won by 32 points.
Yeah. BYU finding a way to escape, that long delay, the weather delay. They came out flat after that, hour and 15-minute weather delay. BYU just got it done. They found a way, and that's all you can ask for. BYU is not a glamorous team. When you watch them on film, I think many teams around the country would say
we got it.
They would cruise through BYU. But I think BYU, like to your point, they do have this ability where they find ways to get it done, to get 258 rushing yards on a much improved Arizona defense with that 3-3-5 scheme. Even Per Bachmeier in the post game bringing up, that Rocky Long scheme. I'm like, what?
You weren't even born.
You really got indoctrinated this week is how I interpreted that. But it was a tough scheme that threw a lot of looks at him, and they found a way to come out on top. And I will say, too, I think this win will – I don't want to say it'll be a signature win for BYU. It's not going to be one where you put a billboard up in the coaches' offices and things like that. But it's the type of win that I think at season's end you'll say, hey, that was a 7 or 8 win team. I think Arizona is much improved. I do agree. Noah Fafita looks really good this season with Seth Doege as offensive coordinator. Arizona will bounce back, I think.
Yes.
But I also just think that BYU, they have this just something in their DNA under Kalani in years 2 and 3 in the Big 12 where they just find ways to escape and get victories. 17-2 since last year's BYU, since the start of last season. That's pretty impressive. I don't care who you're facing. They just find a way to get it done.
So that was a big one. It was fun to watch how that one ended up. The close endings are the ones that we ask for, right? Those are the ones that we like to see. Those are the ones that we want to, as fans and as people covering it. You don't want a game that you are walking. Look, I always love that you guys who have to put stuff in print, or online, like that you have to have these 2 versions of how this day goes down, like in your head.
I experienced that.
Like you basically just told me what your fake headline was about to be before things got, BYU went down to the desert, just couldn't find the magic again. And like that's, I think, where a lot of people's heads are. You brought up the timing situation. It's not a bad move when it works. And there were a lot of people looking at that and going, there's a lot of time taken off the clock. And then suddenly they'd go, let's call timeout. And you go, well, I thought you were going to do that 41 seconds ago. Like, if you're going to do it, just do it. So there were questions about the clock management. And it's interesting because I think if you're Coach Kalani Sitake, you go, we knew what we were doing. That's why we won the game, right? And that's how they approach these things. We have our way of doing it. We have the way that we approach it. A-Rod is the same way, the offensive coordinator. We have our way that we approach things. We also have a way that we're trying to handle Bear Bachmeier. What are we going to do? Get in his ear and so go, run, spike it, let's go. All these things, they know how to handle their guy. And I think they're creating a monster in a way, in a good way. If you're a BYU fan, they're creating a monster of a guy who's going to show up and is going to have ice in his dadgum veins. He already seems to have that.
He does, and even though he did get bailed out, Kyle Safarichuk, everyone's going to remember how to pronounce his name now after that fumble recovery in the fourth quarter. That was big for BYU, but just to come up clutch in a spot. We remember years ago with this program, guys like John Beck, where it was always, well, if game's on the line, he doesn't have it. He can't get it done. There's great quarterbacks even in the NFL where game's on the line, tough spot, OT, you can't get it done. You can't win. And Bear Bachmeier to be placed in this spot, game on the line, undefeated season on the line, and he rises to the occasion and gets some touchdown runs for BYU. Huge moment for Bear, huge moment for BYU as they get it done down in the desert, and now they turn their attention to, of course, the rival, the Utah Utes. We'll break down that game in greater detail coming up a little bit later in the show. But we got to take our first time out here on First and 12 on this Football Tuesday on KSL News Radio. Coming up next, we'll break down the First and 12 headlines around the conference. It's First and 12 here on KSL News Radio.